112%. That's the tariff on a Chinese-made electric vehicle entering the United States right now in 2026. Not a headline from years ago. Active, stacked, and rising. A 100% duty on the vehicle itself, plus a fresh 10% tariff layered on top this year. That number isn't random. It's a wall. And it's the main reason a huge number of American car dealerships are still standing. Today, we open the books on the traditional car dealership, the business behind the glowing showroom and the inflatable gorilla on the roof, and show you why a global trade war is quietly propping up its entire profit model. Walk onto a lot and the story you're told is simple. Buy a car wholesale, sell it retail, pocket the difference. That story is almost entirely wrong. The real model breaks into 4 pillars. First, new vehicle sales. These are the bait, not the meal. Margins run 1 to 2%. On a $40,000 SUV, the dealer might clear $800 after the manufacturer takes its cut. New cars generate the biggest share of revenue walking through the door, and the smallest share of actual profit. Second, used vehicles. This is where the real money lives. Trade-ins come in at wholesale, go out at retail, and because the dealer, not the manufacturer, sets the price, margins often run 10% or more. Third, F&I, finance and insurance. The quiet engine, extended warranties, gap insurance, loan markups. In a modern dealership, F&I can account for over 30% of total operating profit, sometimes more, from a department most customers barely think about. And fourth, fixed operations, service and parts, the least glamorous and the most dependable. Oil changes and brake jobs don't care about the economy. In a healthy store, service department gross profit alone can cover 100% of the dealership's fixed costs, a benchmark the industry calls service absorption. If the bays go quiet, the whole operation starts bleeding. Here's what most outsiders miss before they even get to day-to-day economics. Getting into this business is not a small business bet. It's an institutional one. A franchise agreement typically requires a dealer to meet manufacturer-mandated facility standards, specific building design, signage, service bay counts, funded almost entirely by the dealer, not the manufacturer. Layer on the real estate itself, the initial parts and tooling inventory, and the working capital needed to float payroll before the first car sells, and total entry capital for a single franchised rooftop routinely runs into the 7 figures before a single vehicle hits the lot. And that's before we get to the debt that keeps the whole thing moving. Dealerships rarely own their inventory. They finance it through floor plan lending, a revolving line of credit from banks or the automaker itself. Those 400 cars gleaming on the lot aren't the dealer's cash. They're the dealer's debt, and interest accrues on every unit. Every day, it sits unsold. In a healthy market, a car turns in 30 to 45 days, the loan clears, the margin gets pocketed, the cycle resets. But when that vehicle sits for 90 or 120 days, carrying costs quietly eat the margin alive. A dealer holding a $10 million lot can be paying tens of thousands of dollars a month in interest just to keep the inventory sitting there, doing nothing. This is where trade policy stops being an abstract headline and starts hitting the P&L directly. The 112.5% U.S. tariff wall and the EU's brand-by-brand duties of 17 to 35% on top of its own 10% import tax don't just block Chinese competitors. They protect the resale value of every used vehicle already sitting on every American and European lot. Roll that wall back tomorrow, and a wave of $15,000 competitively built EVs could crater used inventory values overnight, the exact asset dealers depend on for their best margins. It's a double-edged shield. It keeps existing inventory valuable, but it also keeps the entry price for new buyers elevated, which, combined with the cost of financing that inventory, is precisely what turns a slow sales month into a real cash crunch. Here's what the sticker price never tells you, and what most people underestimate before they buy into or invest in a dealership. First, personnel is the single largest recurring cost, not the building or the inventory. Sales staff, F&I managers, service advisors, and increasingly certified EV technicians all command rising pay in a market with a documented shortage of skilled labor. And that cost shows up every month, whether cars sell or not. Second, franchise agreements are not static. Manufacturers can and do mandate facility upgrades, rebrand refreshes, and technology investments as a condition of keeping the franchise, meaning a dealer can be forced into 6 or 7 figures of capital spending with little discretion over the timing. Third, the floor plan is a leverage trap that punishes bad timing. 2 consecutive slow months during a rate hike cycle can turn a profitable rooftop into a distressed one, because the debt service doesn't pause just because sales did. And fourth, the one nobody puts on a thumbnail. Trade policy itself is a risk, not just a shield. The same tariff wall protecting margins today is a political decision that could be renegotiated, challenged in court, or phased out. A business model this dependent on a government policy staying in place is, by definition, exposed to a risk most owners never model. Despite all of that, the model is more resilient than it looks, for 3 structural reasons. State franchise laws make it nearly impossible for a manufacturer to fire a dealer or sell direct to consumer in most U.S. states. Tesla is one of the few exceptions. That gives existing dealers something close to a localized monopoly. The aging global vehicle fleet, the average car on American roads is now well over a decade old, pushes owners out of DIY repair and straight into the dealership's high-margin service bays, growing fixed ops revenue for reasons that have nothing to do with new car sales. Leaner inventory discipline has cut floor plan exposure industry-wide. Dealers who learned to carry 30 days of inventory instead of 100 are dramatically less fragile than they were a decade ago. But strip away the tariff wall and the picture changes fast. This isn't a business protected by brand loyalty or unmatched service. It's a business partially protected by policy. And policy can move. So, is the traditional car dealership still a good bet? It depends entirely on which dealer you are. The highly leveraged owner riding pure new car volume, ignoring the service bay, is one bad tariff decision and one rate cycle away from real trouble. The operator running the dealership as a diversified financial and maintenance hub, leaning on used cars, F&I, and fixed ops, is positioned to take market share from the ones who don't. You're not buying a car lot. You're buying a highly leveraged, government-protected asset. And whether that's a good deal depends entirely on how well you run the back office nobody sees, and how much you're willing to bet on a trade policy staying exactly where it is.